How are you
of
tracking?
what,
Even
30,
once it's assigned.
30, 32 intake supervisors, you might get 31, 32 different styles of how things are done.
Okay.
Right, and it's just a matter of personal preference and their own style.
So if you're asking, is there something in the system that shows us if things are being worked on, or something that comes up that says this needs a safety assessment or something like that? The answer is no.
The
No.
answer is no. Okay, that's good. That is part of the question.
So it's more of, like you were saying, Stephanie, everybody does it their own way,
Their way.
keeps track of it, but reality is you have to go in and physically look
Look.
and see what's done, what isn't, what to do, if it's, what day it's at. That's why I have these lists that are,
Okay.
and I would absolutely die if someone removed from my desk.
Guys, every 10 days, right? When you fill out that supervisory log, do you go into the ECMS system and check if there's a progress note that's done, or
I mean, that's
safety
Yeah.
assessment that's completed, or do you really just rely on that to face-to-face or telephone contact with the worker?
I do mine face to face during supervision or a case
The
review.
supervisory log?
Supervisory log.
Yeah, I
Right.
do supervisory log during supervision, like I'll write in there as I'm discussing the case, but to check on when a case is, say if it's coming up on 30 days or whatever the case may be, I check usually daily, and then I check the list just to make sure, because they're easy to fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Stephanie was saying, and even Melissa, is that people have different things. So somebody might look just every 10 days they might look. Or
Right.
they may look every day. Or
Right.
they may look every other day. Or it might be Tuesdays or Teresa's
Tuesdays,
day.
right.
Fridays or Thursdays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would
Right.
be nice though is that, there's, if it's kind of like reminders or kind of indicators as to what's happening. You
Right.
know, this particular case A has only one safety assessment. Oh my God, what's going on with case A? You know what I mean? Like something that kind of trigger.
Right, because Fax 2 and ECMS is out of sight, out of mind. If it's not there, you don't know that it's there or not.
Right.
You have to physically go look.
Yeah,
Right.
And you can't look at everything at once. So it's going in, look at
And that
that
one
pop
coming
back
out,
going in.
going in.
Oh my God, I hit it again. Oh wait.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. But it would be nice if, like, in 72 hours, if there was not a safety assessment, like, you got an alert saying, you know what I mean, or something. I know you probably can't do alerts for everything, but for important guidelines, like, so we don't have to look like fools to the state, you know what I mean, when we don't have any of these things done
Oh,
in a
you know
timely
what?
manner.
Mhm.
Maybe we could get some kind of alert for those particular things that they're really tracking and that they feel are very important.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to question number 7, because we're already talking about that a little bit. What frustrates you about the system, especially when you're just getting started or in the preliminary parts of
it's
the
too for me. It's
process?
too much in and out, too much back and
Too
forth.
much back and forth.
Right, it's
Right.
way it's just way too much. I don't know how to put it in words. It's just way too much.
Yeah, it's too much unknown.
And then when
It's
you're
just unknown.
right, and then like, yesterday was my Units E day. I have 4 people. I got 13 reports, and I need to get them out on the street as quickly as possible. There's not a whole lot of time for them to do their preliminary work, for me to do whatever it is that I have to do to make sure everything is okay. And then when you finally sit down, you got to keep going in. You got to go back out. You got to go to work on product list. Then you got to come back out. Then you got to go into this and then click on that. Okay, do they have a previous case history? Okay, what was the notes in? What? It's too much.
And you have to go to, and that's why I asked you earlier, how many different systems do you have to look at?
Well, it's not so much different systems.
Just
It's just too much in and out.
Different
You bring it
screens.
out of that.
But like even with
Same
ISS.
And then God
the way
forbid you
look
make
at
a mistake.
ISS, and it's open.
God forbid
Right,
if you make a mistake and hit the wrong, like if it's a GPS and a CPS, and you click on, in the same family, and you click on the wrong one, oh my God. Now you got to go back on the work on list, put in the case number, make sure you hit the right one. It's too much.
It's too much. It's too much.
Back and forth,
Back
in and out.
forth, back
It's
and
too
forth.
much.
Go over here, go over here. And even within the same system, this tab, that tab, that tab, out of
And
here.
yeah,
for
Signing
absolutely.
in,
for the- right.
Do you need to re-sign in and out and to do different things, or no?
Oh, don't let the system go down. Oh my God.
You have to come out
You
of
have to
everything and
close
go back
your
into your
computer down.
work on
Yeah.
Shut off.
Okay.
for each different task that you do. So if you have to look at somebody, if you're covering for someone else, you have to come out, go back into your work.
Oh my God, yes.
If you
Yes.
you have to go to another worker or whatever, you keep going back to that work on list, and so
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
cumbersome.
so the work on list is really driving your day, and you
How
always
you
have
access
to
most
really
stuff.
go in and out of that.
Right, and having supervision, that's the, like, I write my supervisions down because I got like ADHD and all that kind of stuff. So for me to keep going back and forth, in and out, this, that, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. It would take me all day to do supervision, and I don't have all day.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
not even one click in and out. It's like, I gotta open up this, CMS, then I gotta scroll down, and I gotta make sure, hopefully
You
I
gotta
pick
open
the
the
right
folder.
reference number.
Yes.
If I got the wrong reference number, damn it, gotta
Yes.
get back out.
You gotta
And
come
go to find another one. Which one's the right one? So, and also, the most frustrating thing for me is that there are certain things that should be on the same screen and they're not.
The
Like,
telephone
you know what I
log.
mean? There's certain things that should be accessible in the same place, and they're not. Like even outcomes. So for me to submit an outcome, I have to check 3 screens.
Right.
You know, why can't it all be on one?
Right. Right.
You know?
Right. Right. Do you do a lot of data entry in these screens, or is it really just checking things and clicking them off,
Well-
or you know?
Well, at my level, and I would say even probably for Frank and even our supervisors here, is that they're reviewing stuff that the workers got to put in. So they're the
Yeah.
ones that are even more frustrated
Yeah.
because they got to enter
gotta
things on
enter
16
stuff,
screens.
and
They
they
just have to
gotta-
open them and
yes.
read them.
Okay.
And read them too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And sometimes there's a false reading when you, with the outcomes. Like
Yes.
you will send it, it could be a GPS or a CPS, doesn't matter. You might click on the tab, and it might say success.
Misspelled.
But then you actually go and
We've heard about
you go
that.
into it. You have to go into the CWIS system to see if it actually accepted it. And sometimes there's a false reading fax too, saying, well, it was successfully transmitted, but CWIS is not verifying that.
Right.
So there's
Right.
something wrong with it. Sometimes it says success, and it might say in the CWIS system that it accepted it, but then
Right.
you'll never know for sometimes days or weeks that it came back with.
Yep. Right.
Corrections
Correction.
needed.
And,
And then
by
we
that time,
see
the
errors.
the report's disposed.
It's done.
You're disposing it.
Right, and
Yeah.
then they don't appear on that PMA list, then
Right.
they're on this other one.
Yeah,
And the
we
super-
see
you guys
error
can't get back
messages.
into that if it's GPS,
No,
right?
no, we
Once it's
can't.
disposed, you can't. You guys can't.
Well,
get back.
no. Sometimes we can't. There's no rhyme or reason because Roberto gave me one back and I was like, I can't do this. He's like, yes, you can. And we was going back and forth for like 5 minutes. The next thing you know, I clicked the button and I could. But then the next one, he's like, go ahead and do it. I didn't have the capability. There
If
was
it's
no
a
rhyme or
C-
reason.
If it's a CPS, you can't go back
We
and do
can't.
it.
But even on
if
some
it's
GPSs,
normally
you can, but sometimes
CPSs,
you can't.
No, I have to go to the administrator and have the administrator do it if the corrections come back on CPS.
But even with, all right, so there's like a whole bunch of different tabs I need to go to send the outcome, right? Because I want to look here for the allegations, then I got to look at the incident. I can't just look at that incident. I need to look at that next incident, and then the incident after that. So if there's 4 or 5 incidents, forget it. That's
Or
clicking in
12.
and out 16 times. But then what Frank had said is that I don't really know that it went anywhere until I click out completely and then
Yep.
click
Right,
back in.
that's right.
And sometimes you may not know then because it can come 2 days later and come
Yep.
back with an error a couple of days
So
later.
even if you go to the state system, you won't be able to see it.
Usually you can see it in the state system, but then the state could say that they have it and we still get errors because they received it.
Right.
Right? So they received it, but 2 days later they can review it and
Or
send
6
it back
months
to us
later.
saying,
Say, oh no, we don't
you know, we
accept
have
it.
a different date of birth for mom or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be.
And that's the 777 that they're
That's a
sitting in that queue.
777. So I was gonna say, how do you know eventually that you? I mean, obviously you don't know that they sent it back right
Yeah,
now.
a list.
We don't know. But eventually it gets on a list.
Yeah, that we can't sort, so
We can't sort.
IT sends now a list out once a week, which I use. But
Okay.
other than that, there's no real time. I have to wait for somebody to send
You
it.
have to wait for somebody to send it. So something that was sent back from Steve was kind of language
And
for a
the
while.
errors are difficult for the workers. Like a lot of times when they get an error, they're not really sure how to fix it. You know, and that becomes a problem because they don't really know how to fix the error. And so if you say, okay, we'll fix this error, fix that error, and then if it comes back that it's reevaluated, they can't see the errors on their screen. So we can see them as a supervisor for a GPS, but
Right.
the administrator can only see the CPS. So you then either the administrator has to fix it, or you have to go there and fix it yourself on their computer, or whatever the case may be. So it's
Right.
the worker cannot fix their own case.
And sometimes they, right, I think we're saying the same thing. They see We see errors that they can't see.
Correct.
The admins see errors that we can't see.
And that's all
Yep.
from reevaluations or errors that come back, and the difference is GPS and CPS.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we're like docu-sharing more than ever. This
Oh,
is
don't talk to me
And
about that.
very time-consuming, 150-page documents. We don't have time for this. I mean,
Okay, docu-sharing is something that I became aware of yesterday or Friday. So I would love to hear a little bit more about docu-share and how it fits into your business and what it's for.
I'm the wrong one to ask.
it's when outcomes is not accepted by the state. So when you go and you look into the CETA system, if that category is blank, that signifies that they didn't accept the outcome, regardless if it's GPS or CPS. And it's for a reevaluation, but even with the reevaluation, the state does not accept it. Then basically your hotline will say, "Well, docu-share."
So it's the electronic transmission
Yeah.
that doesn't get accepted, not so much the outcome decision.
Okay, so are you sending them back copies of documents?
Scanned copies
Yeah.
of the
So
document.
we have to
Yeah.
print the document, which, like Frank was saying, could be 150 pages in some cases.
Mhm.
Then you have to scan those pages into the scanner, which they only take 10 pages at a time.
You're
And
kidding.
then, so you're sitting there forever scanning them in, and then you have to then send them, right? So it's really time consuming.
Right, so after
It
you've
seems
done
like
all.
everybody's docu-sharing more than ever, right? I mean,
Right.
it seems
Yeah,
like
and it sounds like it's very cumbersome.
I'm being
process.
rebellious on that one.
Yeah.
Like, I
It's
can't.
really, it's a horrible process.
It is.
And
It
so it
is.
finally gets there, and then if there's something wrong with it, it comes back and you have to do it again?
Not usually with
Once it's
DocuShare.
done,
Not usually with DocuShare, but it's just really long.
Because they can see it like in black and white on, I mean, there's 100 sheets of paper.
Then
don't-
they have to deal with it.
Sometimes we don't get verification that it's accepted, though. We will ask the program analyst on the hotline to send us an email, just verifying that it was accepted. But usually we don't get the emails, so we can't.
So
You
But we
can
can't-
see it in the CWIS tab much later on, sometimes,
Sometimes.
that shows, like, there's like a little, I forget what that little.
It looks like a little piece of
square.
paper or
Yeah,
something, little,
and then
little
it looks,
white
yeah,
square.
and then you'll know that it was DocuShare.
Yeah, but that's if you check off the box.
Correct,
And
right.
You have to
So
check
it's
off the
not
box
always,
too.
right, but it's not, well, it
Which is
doesn't.
not, it's not their responsibility, it's,
It's-
we're the ones who check off the box, but we still
Right,
don't,
right.
we still don't know if they accepted it.
You know what, Frank, that's true.
Yeah, we'll check the box
Yeah,
and
we
then
check
when
the
we,
box.
That's
and it
true.
appears on a list because we need to give a manual correction versus an electronic one.
Yeah, how about that? And so then you can't send a correction, or it'll say that we received it manually, so we can send it back manually.
Right, right.
So what frustrates you? We might be here, we could be here for a couple days, so
I
we're trying
know.
to,
Thank God the windows are shut.
That's
I
why
mean,
we're really
I'm
coming
gonna go
back.
ahead and let y'all talk about
You can't
the
get out of this
nice
place.
You can't have them. That's why
I'm
we'll
just
come
gonna
back
say
to that,
it.
as we look at different pieces individually, for sure. So we're kind of talking about how the process starts, but let's just think overall, let's kind of go through these, we still have a couple of minutes, let's just go through some of these questions. We'll move on to number 8. Are there steps that you guys do that aren't mandated by law that you think are useless?
Go ahead, y'all.
well, just, I think what we just talked about, the fact that you have to click on 16 screens just to get one thing done.
Right.
It really is cumbersome, and it's very challenging because there's really no rhyme or reason why we have to do that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I would think that if we went to question number 9, and it says, where do you spend most of your time and why?
Clicking
you
on
might have the
screens.
same one.
Clicking.
Yeah.
Pointing and
buttons.
clicking.
Clicking on
Or
screens,
trying to
or-
get outcomes to go through
Right,
and
that's-
making corrections to have those outcomes go
Yeah.
through. Because
Right.
a lot of times the workers aren't able to do it and they're like, or they
Yeah.
can't see
Yeah.
it, so then you're making the corrections and trying to figure out how to get everything to match, kind of, to be able to send it through, to be able to get that outcome.
Right.
And a lot of the
Accepted.
frustration for me and for my staff is that we weren't trained on how to fix it. We are all learning on our own how to fix
Just
it.
have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So if I have an issue, I may say, go to Melissa and say, Melissa, I got this error message. Oh, you have to do A, B, and C. Nobody's told me how to do A, B, and C. Melissa found out because she played with it for a while.
And that's how
Like,
we
you
go
know,
back and
that's
forth.
how it
Amy
goes.
and I initially used to just go back and forth. I was like, Amy, do you know how to fix this error? Do you know what this error means? And then in the beginning we would call Jay 500 times. times per day.
Yeah.
You know, we did. Like when I was in
Right.
MBT, we called him 100 times.
Right.
But then we learned how to do it.
Right.
Right.
So that's probably why a lot of documents are getting docu-shared too. It's
Right.
because too much frustration on trying to figure out how to fix it. Just print it out.
Just print it out and do it, okay.
Yeah.
We're spending an hour trying to fix it.
Training, lack of proper training, lack of a way to, understand how
But
the
we
system
spend
works
more of
better.
our time really trying to be technical support people than we actually do doing social work. I
Because
fall
if not,
short.
you're gonna not be.
You know, in saying, you know, I'm rebellious. I am. They know that. But I'm not computer savvy. Like, as much as I probably want to be, I'm not. But you know what? They don't pay me to sit here to try to figure out how to do this here. I'm not doing
You're
that.
not working
Well,
in
not only
IT,
that, they
you're
didn't
working
train
in-
you. Not that you need to sit there and figure it out.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I have to spend my time trying to figure out technical support issues,
Which is
that
why
are-
they didn't train you, because you trying to figure it out. They didn't
But
give you
some
the
of-
right supports, right?
well, no, some of the stuff I should only really be going in and doing social work issues, inputting
We all agree.
all of that
But
stuff
if not,
there.
you're gonna
If
have to
I
use
have
your
to
feet
sit there and try to figure out why this button won't work when it has nothing to do with the information that's needed, that's a technical issue. I'm not wasting a half a day trying to figure out why this report won't go through.
And that's why
I don't wanna
people
do
burn
that.
out.
Right.
And
That's why
that's
people
Right, I don't-
burn out
I-
because you
and that's
did
what
what
we
you
do.
needed to do.
I don't
got
want
our
to. I don't want.
patient.
I don't want to do that. I just don't.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And you do this all the time, every day.
I spend my time pointing and
Yes.
clicking.
Yeah.
There are times where, I mean, I know, I gotta say, I gave my administrators a list where actually I take the list back because you could spend a whole 8 hours on a list, on a piece of paper, going
Yeah,
and
we
looking
may as well
for
just
versus
be-
exactly
yeah.
meeting with staff and
Especially
addressing
when
the
we're
issues.
not-
trying to
That's the
fix the
best use of your
workbook.
And you trying to figure out, okay, what is this Mary Davis, you know, 9754, or is this Mary Davis 9755?
And obviously it takes away from just meetings with staff. I mean, it's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're a supervisor,
Yeah.
you're not going to be working with your workers.
Yeah.
If you're an administrator,
You're not doing administrative functions.
And you-
You're
Yeah.
doing.
You're not talking about child safety.
You're not talking about child safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had one of my administrators actually say to me, it's like, I need to spend quality time with my team and I can't because I'm working on lists.
That's the truth.
You know?
Those lists are horrifying. And I'm not an administrator, and they're awful. So I can't imagine.
And this goes right to the
Pretty
next question, which would be, what steps do you skip, but you really can't, so
Oh, ain't nobody
you
answered
go
that
right to
question. I can hear.
DocuShare.
Yeah.
That's how, that's your,
Oh, okay.
workaround.
That's the
But I think it
No,
That's
would
a safety
I
issue.
try-
be
I do
helpful.
try not to.
No, but you know
Um,
what? How many people, so we're not just talking about people in the room, but realistically, how many people are probably like, I hit the button once, didn't go through DocuShare?
You're
Right? Because
yeah.
they just need to get on with what they
The next
see as
step.
the job
Yeah.
that needs to be done.
I'm moving on to. I'll
Usually
claim
it's just
that.
not one. It's several times.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah,
And even if it's reevaluated,
That's true. That's true.
and you do what, God bless you, and you do what you can electronically, get these outcomes approved, and you're like, oh gosh, we gotta print it out. That's it.
And we working
we're at
on.
wit's end. We just
Especially
can't do
because you're
anything.
getting close to the time it's due.
Yeah, and we working on stuff where when they reevaluate it, all your information that you put in there
They'll start over.
Right.
goes away.
Yep.
There's like nothing in there now.
Gets reevaluated. And
There's nothing in there. It's
Yeah.
done, over with, gone.
Yeah.
And even with the DocuShare Pride, it seems to have
It's deleted, it's all
that
deleted.
really is not necessary.
So
I
if you
mean,
put in demographics and all like that, you gotta
we
send it out.
done.
scan the whole document.
Yeah, it's
It
gone.
goes to our
You need
CEWA's
your
health
So
department.
you need to print it out
Right.
before you get it reevaluated.
I'm not understanding why
Otherwise
we
you won't have a
do
copy
that.
of it.
Nothing.
I
So
guess
can you
for
imagine
them,
like a 15
For
page
to,
them to do,
to,
And then you come
so
back
it's
and
time,
there's like
date
nothing
and
there.
time stamped, right? But we get nothing in return. We don't really,
you don't get any confirmation.
We don't get any
you
confirmation,
do
so-
this, they got it, you're all set, you can go on.
that's not the way it used to always, we used to just take it down, sign it out
Yep,
the
put it in
log.
the
Oh, you
book.
would physically
And-
do it.
And then if they
And-
have an issue with it, they will call you up. They will hound you like a dog to get which is mom's birthday. Is it 54 or is it 55? And then you look it up and you give it to them. Oh, I'm sorry, here it is. Now with all electronic, you don't know. You don't know with
And
what
it
or
could be
not.
bouncing back and forth before it finally gets back to you to find out whether that got them on board.
And we done moved on to like 5 edicts from them. Like, I don't know.
And the birth date issue is directly related to MCI. We don't have access to MCI. There's only like 1 or 2 people in this building that probably have access
And
to
she's
MCI.
getting ready to retire.
So get ready to retire. So a lot of times we'll get error messages. This doesn't match the birth date in MCI. Well, that's special because I don't know if 54, 55. What do you have in MCI?
Right,
So we don't
whatever
have
you
a
got in-
connection to that system at all.
Or they'll say that the MCI number is duplicated,
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
and then we can't change that error at all because we don't have access to it.
And you
Right.
don't know what the right one is, probably.
We have no idea.
And I don't know
Be
which
off
was.
by a digit, so it's somebody else's or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that, and you have no way of
And Miss
knowing.
Dixon is out of here. Did she
You
leave
have no
yet?
idea
No,
how
that's
to
it.
there.
But we have no, we can't verify anything. It would be great if you guys are creating this, is that maybe that stuff is verified at the hotline level. So by the time it gets to us, whatever information is known about the family is inputted and updated.
Yes, even though, yes, just so you guys know,
Yeah.
you were interviewing, you were also interviewing other systems around you
Mhm.
that may be causing you more problems in your own system. So, yeah.
Yes.
All of this matters to us, but it may be fixed in a different way.
Yeah,
because it may be
exactly.
Fixed when we fix a different part of the system too.
So clearances, making sure that appropriate clearances are done at the hotline. It's an automated function in the background, and it's just people will just check it, double check it in the
Right.
MCI. If those things could kind of be addressed in the very beginning,
It would
that would
cut
make
down,
life a lot easier
it
for
would
us.
cut down things that even get to you in the first place that you don't really need to look at, I guess. Which would help.
Could I just
ahead,
raise
yes,
another
yes.
topic? I think that staff are really just very upset about the number of reports they're getting a month. I mean, everyone gets 9 new reports, but not everyone gets the same amount of reports. I would say 9 new
9
cases, 9 families,
families.
but not everyone gets the same amount of reports. You will have social workers get 5 reports on one family, on one E-day, and be expected to get another additional 2 families, and not everybody has that.
More reports each,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. I mean,
Right.
it makes a difference, even though it's the same family. There could be similar allegations. There's still a
Someone-
set of tasks that need to be done. Progress notes can't be all the same. You have safety assessments, depending on whether the children are actually, they could be at a different location. So you tend to be burdened with that. But you're not getting credit. The worker, the social worker is not getting credit for all this work that they're
For
doing.
the extra work.
But it's because sometimes they're not cleared appropriately, or because there's similar allegations that they could be one CWIS number or one report or whatever. They don't have to be 5 reports. So, you know what I mean? I was just trying to like make more clarification.
It's
And I think
possible.
that it's not always necessarily
Maybe.
necessary to have 5 reports on one family. And, you know what I mean? Sometimes, okay, fine, maybe it is. But at other times, there's reason that it could be avoided. Like, you don't need
A GPS and a CPS.
and another GPS on this kid and another GPS on this kid. You know, you can put those on
A smart,
one report with, you know what I'm saying?
a
So
smarter
it just,
system might be able to figure out how to take the information given that and put it where it needs to go. So you can
And that might not be,
combine stuff
that might
better.
not be necessary, but at least give the social work team credit for the amount of work they're being assigned.
Right.
If there's could be a system.
Yes.
That's a practice issue more than a systems issue. I agree with you, but it is a practice issue. No, I'm just talking about as far as like the people make those decisions.
It is, and you're
You know.
correct. It is, and you're correct, but I think that you could take what you're saying and make it a reporting issue. So I mean,
Right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
someone-
yeah,
someone
yeah.
has
there
decided to
could be
separate
a
those
time
reports,
report,
right?
like they do time studies.
I mean, it
for
looks like it, yeah.
There could
Looks
be a
like
time report that says a supervisor about this is, here's where your worker's time is being spent, and here's why.
Yeah.
And it, no, it sounds like, oh, that's just oversight. It's not. It's also, they can tell, oh my gosh, this person's overloaded, even though they're getting, by definition, the same number. They might be able to see that better. Maybe that would help, people who assign cases, the assigner, work a little more efficiently. So
You
things
just
like that.
brought up time. I'm just wondering, because I think that's important too. I think people do not understand the impact of having 5 reports on one family, right? Because they see it as one family because that's the way that's the way people look at it. But what if, is there any maybe data that can come from this system that will say, I worked 16 hours just doing notes on the Smith case?
That's,
You know what I mean?
that's been raised in other areas, that's why I
Mhm.
just wanted to, as I said, some of the things that you're saying, there's a lot of overlap in other areas. There's potential for maybe integrating some of those kinds of things. Yeah, these are kinds of things that might save you guys lots of time and and make other people's lives better, and that's what,
Right.
we'd like the system to be able to help do. Obviously, it can't fix all your
Yeah.
procedures, but maybe there's things that, reports you can get, things that can be integrated, that would help.
Right.
That kind of thing.
I'm just saying for data collection and maybe, we'd be more successful making that argument about having 5 reports in the Smith family. That worker deserves a break because it took 16 hours on average to do notes for this type of situation.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly, and now you'd be able to show them
Uh-huh.
if you had that kind of ability to report on that kind of thing. Yep. Yeah. It is getting to be after 4, so I'm going to ask the last question for today, which how do you know when you're done? How do you know when you're finished with an investigation and an intake? Is
When it's
there-
gone,
When the report's
When-
disposed.
literally.
Report's disposed, when it's gone, and does it bounce back? And if it bounces back, does it bounce back, is it something new again? Or it's gone, it's been assigned to, and it's on its way, and it has a social worker who's responsible for it from then on? Does that happen?
It would depend. Like if it's one of our standard reports, right? Nothing else going on. The worker submits it, and really depending on the flow of the unit, supervisor will get the hard copy of the case record. Supervisor will flip through the hard copy of the case record, make sure everything is fine, click all the buttons and everything is in there. Give it to the administrator. If the administrator is satisfied with the work, the administrator will click on the button and the case goes.
Okay, so.
And it's closed.
Closed.
That's your stereotypical, run-of-the-mill GPS
Okay.
report.
So,
Or CPS report.
knowing when you're completed or something is the least of your problems. It sounds to me. It's the least hard thing to determine. When it's done, you know when it's done. You know how you've handed it off. You hand it off by giving a report. Is it a paper report that ultimately you hand off?
I do, yes.
You do. Most people.
I can't speak for most others, but I guess.
So the administrators are responsible for reviewing the disposition summary, but just like the supervisors, they all might have their own way of doing it. Like for me, I wouldn't review a disposition summary unless I had a hard copy of the record. So those things go hand in hand for me.
Okay.
But for others, they may say, look, I'll review it electronically, you know what I mean? And after I review it, then you can submit the hard copy of the record. So it's, some people just have maybe a little bit different, kind of process.
Right.
But ultimately, the goal is that if I'm disposing, I'm hitting the button that says it's officially off your stats.
Okay. So you do have a way of knowing it's done, which sometimes people don't. So that's
You know what? Not necessarily. Again, not
Not
necessarily. Because out of sight, out of mind. I will know that, right, whatever my number is today, right? I might have 50. I might be down to 49. But I don't know which one of those ones
You don't know
they
which
click the
one
button
is
off.
49
Okay.
or 50.
I won't know that
Like if you turn
Right.
in more than one.
if I turned in more than one.
Right.
If I know that I turned in the Davis case, and the Davis case is the only one that I turned in, and I went from 50 to 49, okay, well the Davis case is gone.
Right.
But if I turned in 10 of them,
You have to go back.
Oh,
I would
good
have to
point.
keep going. Right, I wouldn't know which
Right.
which
Which one?
one and which worker.
Right.
Right.
So you have to go all the way back and review.
I would have to go back and look to see, okay, whose number went down, and then I would have to know what number they were at before to know that really.
So it might be helpful to have like almost like a log like this. is
Right.
what
That's
was
where
done.
ISS
Yeah.
comes in, but that's
Yeah.
only updated every half hour on half.
Right, but rather than you looking it up, wouldn't it be great if you saw that, like, out of this week, you
These
moved
were-
16
Yes.
cases
Yeah.
this week?
Right. And here's what
You know,
Something like
and here-
ISS, like bringing ISS into it, like some of ISS's data
Yes.
into ECMS.
Right, but making it just like one list, you don't have to go click to each worker to see what's.
Yes.
Right, right.
Okay.
Or they
Yep.
just come to my office and say, Frank, did you review?
I
Little harassment is effective time to time.
was just getting ready to say that. Or you could just, which button did you
Well,
press?
Frank, do you know it's done when it's done? You know
Well,
it's
yeah,
done when
yeah,
it's
that's,
done,
that's
right?
the one, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I
But
hit the
it-
button, but I don't write down which ones I, well, actually, no, that's not true. I do write down numbers, but I wouldn't know the names of the
You-
cases. I'd have to go.
That's right, and that goes into out of sight, out of mind, right? Because you wouldn't know, out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I only know because I'm a nut and I write numbers down, but not everybody's gonna do that.
Right, but if I said, hey, did you look at the Jackson case? You gonna be like,
Oh, no, I give you
Right.
a list of numbers and say, is it one of these?
and I don't work in numbers.
Right.
And for the most part, I find that the administrators and directors use CWIS numbers like case numbers.
We have to.
I don't
You
know
have
what
to look up the
CWIS.
CWIS number in
I
CWIS.
don't know a CWIS number to save my life. Can I get this outcome for this?
So every,
Oh, okay, you
so
I got
when we
you.
review a case, every CWIS number,
I
I have to
wouldn't know.
input it into the CWIS system, right? To make sure that that outcomes is accepted by the state. That's done every single.
See, and when you give me that
Because-
CWIS number,
I
I'll say okay.
I read it on the Alexa change to remind myself.
But you can look up the CMIS number. It's just as easy to look up the case number. All you gotta do is just plug it into the right field. That's all. It's not hard to look up.
no, it's not.
But that's the way we manage and the outcomes.
See, but that's the level of where y'all work at. If that's where you guys work, we don't work there. We work in case numbers,
Right, but
and
why-
that's just and
Well,
I
you
know
have a
that.
big dash number, don't you? You could.
Yeah, I do. I
The
gotta
CMIS number
put
you
my
can plug
password
in. But the reason
fix
that we
it.
look by CMIS numbers is because depending on which list we're looking at an outcomes list, that's how we're tracking outcomes. If we were looking at families, how many families do you have, then we would look at the case number. So it depends on what we're tracking. Is what number.
Because, sometimes the CWIS won't be accepted, right, the outcomes. So when we compare what data the CWIS has in its system with FACS2, we'll see, well, CWIS has 3 or 4 allegations here, we only have 1.
Mhm.
And then they'll say to me, well, your supervisor was supposed to look this up from day one when they got the report. I'm
See-
like, well, who's going to do that? I mean,
Nobody's doing that, and that's what we
I mean,
need
who's gonna
at
do
the
that?
hotline level too.
I'm not even.
Is
I'm-
that the information is
I need to
the
hold you.
same that we have in our system versus CWIS,
Yes.
because it does not always come over.
and we don't have.
Because then they
And I'm
need
just being
errors.
honest. We do not have the time. We don't. We would like to, and it's not being disrespectful to not do it, but we just don't have the time. And for me, that's a technical issue. I need to know if, when I get this report, the kid has a black eye, going out there and investigate this black eye.
Right.
That's what we have. That's what we're looking at.
You
Now,
gotta
now,
check
2
the
days
states
later,
to see if
I'm
it's
getting a
broken on.
reevaluation about a black eye
And a
and
scratch.
scratch.
Well, you need to go
and,
with
and,
state
and the one
system
that
to see if it's
and the one that says other
Yeah, what is
causing 004.
Yeah.
Like we have causing. Like
Mhm.
what is that?
Because then when you go to submit your outcome, it's going to come back with the error that the state has a different allegation
And-
than we have.
And that's what, and I think that's where part of my point was. We should not be able to accept it or put it out if it's not correct to begin with. If they have 4, we have 1, or vice versa.
Then you should.
There should
acknowledge
automatically
that.
something to say bing 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 bing. Nope 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 nope.
or sometimes we have the CPS, but they have the GPS and CWIS.
Oh, I used to have that.
That happens, and that's scary. That's very scary because the parameters around the investigation are very different than around assessment.
Yeah.
They're 2 different things.
And then we have a CPS, but the state has no number, like, to keep anyone's record on file or
Yep,
anything.
yep, and then we notify the
This
family
will
that
be
there's a
cracks.
child protective services report versus general protective services report. And the criteria is different, the notification letters are different, the appeal process is different, everything's different.
But they give you no number?
No, they've done it where they've made it a CPS and then changed it to a GPS, or even
Oh,
worse, they
so
made it a
they
GPS and they
reevaluated
changed it, yeah.
We had
They
that.
change it, then we don't know they changed it until we send the outcome.
Yep.
Oh, and then.
And then
So
and
meanwhile, we never really did a CPS investigation.
So now you have to go back and do it.
We never
Does that
really
mean you
did.
have to go back and do it?
Or generate.
and then what
Or
the
it's
scary
like-
part with that is is
Well, you're at
we're looking at
now.
60 days because the GPS is 60 days, the CPS is 30 days.
Oh,
So
okay.
here I am.
Okay.
Oh, okay, we got 60 days. Now, meanwhile, somebody's banging on my door talking about where's the CPS report?
Now you're out of compliance.
And you're out of compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't even know it.
We actually had that happen recently.
Yeah, and the
Very
response
recently.
time could be different. There's a lot of things that are different about those types of reports.
This discussion was very cathartic.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so
I'm
please
glad you
don't
thought so.
want to sit here and complain. We want to see progress.
Yes.
Beginning is where we start. This is good. This is actually a really good. We're going to use this approach again on Monday. Let it percolate in my brain a little bit too. I think it may be maybe a slightly different way we can ask the questions. Maybe we'll focus on just one part of the system. Let me give it some thought. We'll regroup, and we'll talk again on Monday. Yay!
At
We
10,
gotta come
right?
back on Monday?
At 10.
Okay.
Let me find out you take the day
Did I tell you,
off.
Frank? Did I tell you?
I will follow whatever my director wants me to do.
That's the answer.
Let me find out, right?
We're back.
That's the answer. I will do whatever.
Thank you. Thanks all for coming. It's
Don't stand to bring some fruit to this class.
I will do
Thank you so
whatever
much
you
for
told me to
speaking.
do, but I'm
I'm not gonna do on my way.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Was 10 o'clock on Monday?
Can we get a bling 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 on that?
How about it?
Bling 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 reminder on that?
Frank needs a bling bling at 10 a.m. on Monday.
He's gonna bring his flask. Don't forget your flask, Frank.
All right. It was interesting.